Thank you. You will be missed, no doubt. Let's take a breath together. So today we're talking about creating a life that matters. And I toyed with completely changing the title because I can't imagine any version of life that doesn't matter. And so I want to start with an acknowledgement that whatever life is creating matters. And sometimes we get lost in our thinking that we're actually creating life rather than understanding that life is creating us. And I think that may be the very place where most of our discontent, if not all of it, stems from. Parker Palmer suggests, and this is not a direct quote, but Parker Palmer suggests that before we tell life what we're going to do with it, we invite it to tell us what it wants to do with us. And perhaps that's the mental bridge, if you will, that in this human journey we can spend a little more time anchoring in. It doesn't mean that we give up the power of choice, quite the opposite. It simply means we open ourselves to different options, if you will. Because if all I'm looking at are options that I create from my brain, which quite literally the physiological brain in my head is nothing more than a repository of past. The brain is my hard drive for this human computer. And so if I rely solely on my brain, the very best I can do is a new version of something that's already happened. Right? And is that really what I want? Pretty sure it's not. There's nothing that I can look back at in any day that has happened that I want to repeat. Not even the amazing days. And the most amazing day that comes to mind is the day I married Deborah. And that is still the day that, even just saying that now, goosebumps everywhere. Because it was a magical day. And it was the first thing and maybe the last thing that I've ever done where I had zero doubt. Where there was nothing in me that was questioning, is this the right thing? Am I sure? There was none of that. And there's no part of me that wants to repeat that day. Because what I recognize is that if I went back and repeated it, I might actually come up with some doubt. Right? Because I would be repeating it with new information. And after 14 plus years of marriage, we have some new information about one another. Right? And so if I try to recreate something from the past, I still have additional past information to now filter it through. Would I do it again? I would love to say yes, but I don't know. I would have to actually think about that. But of course, the correct husband answer is absolutely. Right? But do we really know? I don't think we do. And so when we're thinking about this idea of creating a life that matters, I invite you to first understand that no matter how you use the creative process that is the essence of your being, it matters. It matters so much that whatever this is that gives us the authority to create gave us unfettered power, unfettered access to its power. And all we have to do is choose how we use it. That's how powerful, that's how much we each individually matter to life. Hop off screen here a second. I forgot my book. If you're not familiar with this book, The Biology of Belief, I highly recommend it. It is giving me a whole new way to look at the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion that I do. And because Bruce Lipton, a cellular biologist, talks about consciousness at the cellular level. He talks about diversity at the cellular level. He talks about inclusion, and he talks about the 5+ trillion cells in your body working together inclusively in cooperation as a community that creates you. Now, what would it be like? And this is really where I'm spending a lot of my prayer and meditation work these days. If we really took this microcosm of this individualized expression and learned from it before trying to extrapolate what I think I know about diversity, equity, and inclusion to other people, I think we would do it very differently. I think we have, in trying to create a life that matters, I think we have gotten into, in order for my life to matter, I have to marginalize yours. And because you've marginalized somebody else's, in order to unmarginalize theirs, I have to marginalize somebody else. That instead of understanding that every life already matters, that every life already is of equal value, unchangeable value, we are stuck in our labels. We are stuck in projecting our ideas of what those labels mean. We are stuck in projecting our defendedness, because if I let go of the labels I'm comfortable with, if I let go of the labels that I have taken on with 100% as my identity, well, then who am I? See, if my life is defined by the label minister, and I stop doing ministry, who am I? If my life is defined by the label of father, and when my son passed away 5 years ago this month, I didn't know who I was all of a sudden. Because am I still a father if I don't have a kid anymore? See, all of these things come rushing in because we have taken on identities of labels that not only horribly misrepresent who we are, but they minimize who we are. We, every one of us, is a divine idea in the heart of God itself. Whether you call it spirit, God, the infinite, love, life, doesn't matter what we call it. Even that is a limitation, and that's a gift that we get from the Jewish tradition. Yud He Vav He, 4 letters that don't mean a word, right? Because the minute we attach a word that has a definition, we've limited it. And can we be big enough? Can we be brave enough to let go of our attachment to all of the labels that we've taken on as identity? Can we be daring enough to stop assigning those to other people? Because I think if we stop that activity, it'll be a lot easier to let go of our own. But most of the activity I see is not owning labels, it's assigning them, right? Somebody tells a lie, we don't accurately say, that's a person that told a lie. That's not what we say. We say, they are a liar. We assign an identity. Right? Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, white, black, Asian, Caucasian. I don't care what label it is. Those are adjectives, people. They're adjectives. They're not nouns. But we've turned them into nouns. And what we've done, even trying to be more inclusive and bring ourselves closer together, we've just created more categories of separation. So how do we acknowledge ethnicity? How do we acknowledge expression? How do we acknowledge heritage without separating? We take responsibility for what's happening up here. Right? And my favorite are when someone shares who they are, and I say favorite very tongue-in-cheek. When someone shares with us who they are, we just squash them with, well, that's none of my business. So what we just told that person is, what you find magnificent about yourself, I don't care about. Really? We really don't care? And some of us might not. But I submit to you, you care what those 7 trillion cells are doing in your body. And you pay attention to what they're doing. If a group of those cells get together in a place where you have an infection and alert the rest of your body that you have an infection, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say you pay attention to that little group of cells. Because if you didn't, eventually they're going to multiply and kill you. And you have enough wherewithal to recognize that. So I submit that perhaps our very convenient, very, dare I say, spiritual bypass that we fall into, that's none of my business, is a way of demeaning creation that we don't really mean to do. That it's an unintentional way of saying your magnificence is none of my business. And I submit to you that in oneness is all your business. Right? Just like everything that's happening in the community of 5 to 7 trillion cells in your body is your business. There's 7.5 plus billion human cells on planet Earth. Perhaps each cell in the body of the infinite is equally your business. That if we cared for the whole the way we care for the individualized expression, that the whole would begin to heal. Perhaps. Perhaps if we cared for the environment. Because Bruce Lipton goes on to talk about how we have been fooled that genetics control the environment of our body, and we now have science that says that's not accurate, that the environment of our body controls the activation of our genetics. That was news to me, and this is not a new book, right? That the environment I create, so the environment that we create perhaps is activating the beliefs and behaviors of the individualized cells of the one body. And perhaps if we quit worrying so much about what other people are doing and took responsibility, yep, there's the R word, took responsibility for what we're each doing, and that we're doing whatever we're doing in alignment with the essence of our being, what could we criticize? Behavior. We could criticize behavior. Right? I want to be really clear. There is no part of me that is suggesting that we turn a blind eye to poor behavior, but that we recognize instead that poor behavior is the outpicturing of the belief of separation. That poor behavior is the outpicturing of pain. And when we separate from our own divinity, we're creating our own pain. And when we act from that, we behave badly. And if we understood that what heals one place heals every place, instead of standing in judgment and condemnation of bad behavior, perhaps what is available to us is to find it within ourselves. And it may have a different appearance. See, someone else's condemnation that shows up as racism may not show up as racism in you. It may show up as condemnation against the racist. Is it no less condemnation? So what we need to heal is the belief in separation, is the belief in condemnation. Life already matters. Life matters so much. It's mattering as you. Do you know that? Are you living from the understanding, from a palpable connection that everything you think, say, and do is unfolding life as you? That everything you think, say, and do is impacting the whole body of life. That there is absolutely, and here's the bad news, and if it messes up your day, sorry, not sorry. Everything you do is either healing or wounding the whole body. There is no place where this idea that I'm only impacting myself, that's a lie, it's a lie, it's a lie. And as my sister in the East Bay did a whole talk on, Bishop Yvette Flunder, stop lying. Stop lying. If we would just stop lying to ourselves. But it's uncomfortable, right? Let's just own it. It is so excruciatingly uncomfortable to tell the truth. We lie about stupid things that we don't even need to lie about, right? Because we're operating from centuries of shouldapedia. Spend some time meditating. I invite you to join me in the shouldapedia burning meditations. You laugh. I'm totally serious. I go into meditation and I picture walls of volumes of shouldapedia, just like they used to sell the encyclopedia. I am filled, my consciousness is filled with volumes of shouldapedia that have been put there from centuries of humanity. And my meditation is picturing myself pulling one at a time off and burning them. When I first started this practice, I'd actually open them up to see what I was burning. Really? Really? All I was doing, and it took me a while to figure this out. Let me review this volume of shouldapedia. I'm creating a new volume, so I'm burning this one, but I got a new one on the shelf. Don't look at what's in them. Just imagine yourself pulling them off one at a time, burning the volumes of shouldapedia, holding in consciousness that every expression of divinity matters. That every expression of divinity is magnificent. That every diverse, magnificent, one-of-a-kind, never-to-be repeated expression of life matters equally. We're not, how much you matter is not based on what's in your bank account. It's not based on where you live. It's not based on the job that you hold. It's not based on how tall you are, how short you are, how skinny you are, how fat you are, how well you sing, how poorly you sing. None of that matters to the infinite. Imagine this loving source that is just sitting there in absolute glee 100% of the time going, wow, look at me go. Because that's what's happening. Everything you express is an expansion of the infinite, and it glorifies your expression because that's the only reason it made us, is to expand its experience of itself. It doesn't see what we do as good, bad, right, wrong, up, down, big, little. It just sees it as wow. Wow. And so I invite you this week to look at your life and to start with the most minuscule things and be conscious and intentional to wow at yourself all week. I woke up. Wow. I went to the bathroom. Wow. I washed the dishes. Wow. I'm totally serious. To wow at yourself all week and see if your life matters differently to you after that practice. I'll bet it does. Let's take this into prayer. I recognize, I recognize, I know again that there is one infinite something, one infinite everything. It is this source of no thing, the unformed essence out of which everything is made. It is pure perfection, wanting nothing, needing nothing. And in the oneness of it, it only has one value. Being created out of it, by it, to be it, I know that I am it. And I know that what is true of me is true of all life. From each individualized grain of sand to the most magnificent mountains, to each individualized human, each plant, each animal, each bird, each everything, fully infused with the amazing creative essence of this one. So I know that everything has the same value, that everything matters equally. And so I release any limited thinking in my mind that lives in any sense of hierarchical structure. I let that go. And I insist on seeing everything as already included in this thing I call me, this one, this infinite everything. I let go of any limitation of labels as nouns, and I embrace learning about the individualized expression of each and every expression of divinity. I invite the adjectives to know more deeply how the divine is expressing, and I celebrate. I celebrate. And I celebrate. I wow at creation. I intentionally abide in a consciousness of the wow of life and each unfolding essence and moment of it. So with deep, deep gratitude, knowing that the word spoken is the word fulfilled, I celebrate that the shift has already happened. And I invite you, if you are owning these words as your own, to know that the shift has already happened in you. as we say together, and so it is.